Rage out in California. A young student by the name of Chad Farnan filed a lawsuit. Well, it seems he had a teacher that was picking on him for essentially his Christian values. This teacher by the name of James Corbett is the teacher.
James
Corbett is the teacher. Had all these, he was picking on this student for essentially his Christian values. A judge allowed this young man to file a lawsuit, but only on one of these numerous statements picking on this young man. Only one of them violated this young student's First Amendment rights. Here, guys, are some examples of statements that they say did not violate his First Amendment rights. Check them out.
Okay, well, first, before we go to those, let's hear from the teacher, what the teacher has to say about this lawsuit.
Conservatives don't want women to avoid pregnancy. That's interfering with God's work. You got to stay pregnant barefoot in the kitchen and have babies until your body collapses. And that's the news. That's not O'Reilly and Hannity. But those people are just liars.
Okay, so that was what you just heard was the teacher in class. There was a tape recording, obviously made, of the teacher saying all of these things. This was, by the way, an advanced placement European history class. Okay, so clearly the teacher is going off message and injecting his own views and indoctrinating the students with his own point of view. So the one student, Chad Farnan, in class, talks about how that made him feel, that he wasn't part of this teacher's philosophy. So let's listen to what Chad had to say.
It made me feel like awkward almost because I had to sit there and listen to this guy bash Christianity. It's something I put my mind to, my heart to. I read every day at least like a half an hour. So I spend a lot of my time thinking about God, and I volunteer at church. So it's kind of weird, something that my teacher would say to me that's like something I put my heart to, that it's nonsense, that I shouldn't be doing it, it's just wrong.
Okay, so now let's go and look actually what was actually said to him and these derogatory statements that were actually put in this class. And so here's one of the comments that the teacher said, and this is a fascinating thing. He said, what part of the country has the highest murder rate? The South. What part of the country has the highest rape rate? The South. He goes on to say, what part of the country has the highest church attendance? The South. He says, oh, wait a minute. You mean there's not a correlation between these things? He goes on to say that creationism is superstitious nonsense, forcing his values on this child. So when Chad then brings up this lawsuit, the real story here is with the judge. Because here's another comment that was also said in this classroom. He says, we know what rehabilitation works and punishment doesn't, and yet we go on punishing. It really has a lot to do with these same cultural wars we're talking about, this whole biblical notion, sinners need to be punished. These are just some of the examples that were not approved by the judge as reasons to bring this lawsuit, only allowing one of these comments in this classroom to be brought forth as a violation of First Amendment rights in this classroom.
Okay, this judge, U.S. District Judge James Selna, we need to bring attention to his name because, again, these incredible statements about religion were allowed by him and said they did not violate this young student's First Amendment rights. You want one more? Here it is. Parents are pretty irresponsible, and so is the Bush administration with its abstinence policy, spending billions of dollars on something they know doesn't work. Wonderful, idiotic, end quote. Again, that was allowed by this judge.
We can go on because there were 20 different statements made, and I think that we already just played the one about how conservatives don't want women to avoid pregnancies. That's interfering with God's work, the teacher said. You've got to stay pregnant barefoot in the kitchen and have babies until your body collapses. So there were 20 different provocative, offensive statements made by the teacher. The judge only said that one of those violated this student's rights, so it was a very hollow, minor victory for this student.
It was a victory, but yeah, very small.
And we're going to talk to Chad. Chad's going to be on our show tomorrow. We're going to talk to him about how this whole process unfolded and what this has meant for him. Because what really happened here is, you know, a teacher can't push non-religion on a student, and a teacher can't push religion on a student, favoring one viewpoint over the other. It's clear this particular teacher favored one viewpoint over the other. In fact, chastised students for thinking one way or the other. Ridiculous. So we're going to talk to Chad tomorrow about this.
Meanwhile, let's talk about another story on the minds of many Americans this morning.